Do you have good pet stores, Sue, in
Oh,
Australia?
Pardon?
Do you have good pet stores in Australia for things?
Nah, I think they're the same world over. Although I must admit there are some, but we've got Pet Barn and there's another one, which are basically multinational type. Hi, Taylor.
Gotcha.
Taylor. Are you from Australia? Like the two big chains are just as bad as all the ones that you guys have got. Oh, okay. Well, welcome from California. This is going to be all about Australian stuff, but not to worry, you might learn some stuff. However,
Sue's
hi, Laurie. Oh no, you're not from Australia. Yeah, there is, like, I'm about nearly an hour and a half, probably closer to 2 hours from Brisbane, and there's a really good place in Brisbane, or in the outer suburbs of Brisbane, called Paul's Aquariums, and he keeps his hermit crabs in absolutely brilliant conditions. They're all in natural shells. They've got mangrove, swamp mud type stuff area. They've got salt and fresh water, deep stuff. He doesn't, if they dig down, he doesn't dig them up. I've driven all the way up there to get some females from him. And there's another one somewhere down in Newcastle somewhere, I think, that keeps their hermits in good conditions as well. So Laurie, and is it Taywilla? Am I saying it correctly? No. I'm not sure exactly what you are wanting to know, but we have in Australia large garden supply. Well, it's garden and building supplies and stuff like that, called Bunnings. It's a chain that runs right around the world, right around Australia, sorry. And in our Australian hermit crab groups, we say Bunnings is your friend, because you can buy play sand, you can buy the coir peat, you can buy gutter guard, you can buy temperature probes that are remote sensors as well. You can buy jute, all sorts of climbing bits and pieces and things like that. So you can get an awful lot of stuff for relatively cheap at Bunnings, and they're in nearly all large to major cities, towns. I think they're even in some smaller places, but they might not have as good a range. At the moment, we've got a national shortage of sphagnum moss, apparently, which also you can get from Bunnings. But a whole pile of people have been commenting on the Aussie groups that they're unable to find sphagnum moss at their local Bunnings. So other people have been saying that Kmart and Big W and a couple of the other, basically, there's supermarkets that sell stuff other than just food. They sell, home appliances and plants and all that sort of stuff. Hygiene. So they have got a supply of sphagnum moss, apparently, but it's in a bit of short supply at the moment. We also have cheap stores like $2 shops. Not everything's $2, but there's an awful lot of stuff that you can get there. A lot of my stuff for my crabbitats are from $2 shops. Other than my fairly majorly expensive full spectrum light, which I can program to dawn, daylight, sunrise, noon, sunset, dusk, and night. And I can even do lightning, which cost me a small fortune. Other than that, and my 2 custom-made large pools, everything basically in my tanks has come from Bunnings or $2 shops or places like Kmart. So I haven't spent a great deal of money, and you can do it on the cheap. Or you can spend, as I did, the light cost me like $500 or something like that, but it is really awesome light. It's a Micmol is the brand, and it's a full spectrum. I got one that is designed for planted aquariums because I have some plants in my fresh pool. It's pretty awesome. I love it. In my babies, like my transition tank, all of the stuff in there is from the $2 shop. And it's all little clear plastic or clear perspex containers. I also make a lot of use of beach shells because I've got a beach down near, well, about half an hour's drive, because I'm only about half an hour from the coast. And there is a beach there that happens to be called Shelley Beach. And there are always lots and lots of shells there. They're mainly whale eyes, but I also was able to find the tiny little, I call them ice cream cone ones, that the babies use as their first shells. Also, that same beach has, in my local area, it is, Stacey. There's no, I think up along the Barrier Reef and stuff like that, there would be limits, and it probably isn't legal. But where I am, it's okay. I have also found there's one beach at home, just down the road as well, that has almost every day, every time I've gone down, has had probably 3 or 4 truckloads of driftwood. So that's a really handy source for putting in the tank. If you can get hold of grapevine, when they prune the grapevines, Aussie crabs love grapewood. I don't know if other crabs do, but I know Aussies do. I've got a piece that Natalie Van Amstel sent me because she lives in the Barossa Valley, which is a wine growing area. And it took 4 crabs, probably 18 months, to totally strip all the bark off it. And now it's a good, solid, heavy piece of wood. So if you know anyone who's got grapevines and they're pruning their grapes, pick up some bits. When I got sent this one, it had about 6 rolls of sticky tape on it, and it took me about an hour to actually get it all unwrapped. Asked in groups what wood is safe for. Well, the wood, the mahogany, whatever wood they use in aquariums, is so expensive over here. You can buy it, but it's really, really expensive. It's like starts at about $80 a piece, and that's only for a small piece. My thinking is the driftwood that I collect from the beach has been out and about in the ocean or on the sand or in the environment for a long time. It's been soaked in salt water. I do still bake it to kill any bugs. So tank. I've had a couple of bits that have ended up having creepy crawlies in it, and I noticed them before I actually put it in the tank. Cork, about the only place I've found in Australia to get cork is at orchid supply places, and they're not even very common either. I was at the markets in a fairly large town about 3 hours drive away, and there was an orchid supply place at the market, and he had these probably pieces of fairly flat cork bark, about yay big. And so I bought one because I didn't know how the crabs would react to it, but I wish I'd bought more. I have never, ever seen the cork rounds that you guys always say your crabs like. I would love to find some. What safe flowers? I don't know. I go on the premises that if it's growing in their natural habitat, it should, in theory, be safe for native flowers. So we get Banksias here, and they grow up in Western Australia, where the crabs are harvested from. Also, and this is going to go against the grain for a lot of people, I went on a dive trip to Lady Elliot Island, which is the southernmost island of the Great Barrier Reef. And every night we were there, we could see strawberry crabs, wild strawberry crabs. And it was such an awesome sight. And they were huge. They were really, really big. You know, I mean, they would have been way bigger than my hand. And each night they would go into the she oaks, which are pine, and the she oaks have sort of often got multiple trunks, and you could see 5 or 6 strawberry crabs holed up in a hollow in a pine tree. So and they were scavenging around in the needles of these she oaks. So I don't always think that pine would be such a serious threat as what a lot of people make it out to be. As I said, I've seen strawberry crabs in the wild quite happily choosing to go into pine type places and congregating there. So it's not just the odd one or two. And they had other places where they could go. There was dune grass and all that sort of stuff as well. And by the time you get pine stuff from the pet shops and stuff, it's been so seriously treated and dried and polished and shaved and whatever that I can't see that it would have any resin left in it. My parents have got a farm, and mine love climbing pine cones. I haven't ever seen them eat it or anything like that, but I'll put it, wide side up, so it's sort of sitting there, and they'll climb all over it. Mine also like to eat pine nuts, which come from pine trees. Finding instant ocean or Red Sea salt or stuff like that is what is probably most difficult here, because there are very few saltwater reef type aquarium places around, and usually they're only in big cities. So most of the time people need to order their marine salt from online somewhere. I've had instant ocean. No, I actually haven't had instant ocean. I've had Red Sea salt, Tropic Marin, Ocean Pure, and at the moment I've got Continuum Reef sea salt, ocean reef salt or something or other. And I ran out when I had one of my lots of babies this year. And so I actually ordered, I have a very good aquarium shop about half an hour's drive away. And I actually rang them up and I chatted to them on Facebook. And I said, have you got any marine salt? You know, they know me now. And they said, oh, no, we haven't. We've sold out. I said, oh, no, I need some. So they ordered, and instead of getting just a box, which is 5 kilos, I think, I ended up buying a bucket, which is a 20-kilo bucket, because I figured at the rate I was going through it with all the water changes and stuff. Yeah, we do, Jenny. We've got Amazon and XD and all those normal bits and pieces. So I ended up getting a 20-kilo Genie. Right, I've got that. But ended up getting a 20-kilo bucket, and I've used, because I make my water up in 20-litre lots in a black plastic bucket that's got a lid on it. Again, got that from Bunnings. It's a 20-litre bucket. It's got a lid so it doesn't get any light or anything like that. It's got a pump and a air stone in it. It's got a filter and air stone in it, so it's constantly circulating. And therefore I've got it always made up. But I've been through about 4 of those, I think, in the last month and a half. There's quite a lot of natives that I've tried. My very first lot of babies ended up, because they were around Christmas time, and they got New South Wales Christmas bush, which they love climbing all over. I didn't see any evidence of them eating it. They quite like Banksia bottle brush flowers, which are the ones that look like, well, they literally look like bottle brushes. They like those. Frangipanis, they will walk all over, but they don't eat. Hibiscus, they do quite like. Where they actually come from in Australia is fairly sparse in vegetation. It's a very rocky, hot, dry, sort of semi-desert type environment. And the trees, well, the bushes that grow there are fairly drought tolerant and salt tolerant. So there's not a lot of native flowers that grow up there. So it's sort of hard to pick those, although, as I said, the Banksias do grow. How many babies did you have come to land in your breeding? Which one? My first 2 attempts in 2016, 17, I had a couple get to land and none survive. My third attempt, I had 26 to land, and out of that, and that was 4 years ago, I've still got 2 4-year-old males out of the 26 that I got to land. This year, one of those males has gone and made up for the 4 years that he spent in a tank all on his own with his brother. And he's been getting rather friendly with the ladies. And so I've actually had 4 lots of babies this year. The first lot were really strange, and I don't know what happened with them, but I also had some issues because I put the I couldn't find my water heater. I had all my crab baby stuff, raising stuff, in an esky up in the shed. So when I noticed the babies in the saltwater pool and Okay, went up to the shed, got the esky, and the bloody ants had eaten through it, and there were ants all through everything. Hi, Dakota. So I sort of had to pull stuff out and put it and wash it and do stuff and throw it was just a foam esky. Yes, thank you, Stacey. Sorry. And what I'd used that styrofoam cooler in my first couple of attempts and put fresh water in it with the salt water in cylindrical jars and all sorts of stuff. Because the first time I had nothing prepared. I didn't even know I had a crab with eggs. And I saw them and I went, help. Anyway, in all the rush to get it all set up, I couldn't find my heater. So I raced down to the pet shop, much as I hate using them, but that's the only place you can get heaters. And I bought a heater. It looked exactly the same as the one I'd had. Put it in the outside bath type thing, put all the salt water in the jars, put the babies in the jars, and overnight the temperature dropped down to 17 degrees because the heater that I'd bought was only 25 watts and the one that I had used previously was 55 watts. Yes, Monster's a daddy now of multiple lots. So my current babies are second generation. Anyway, so they had temperature swings from 17, and then so in a panic, I chucked some hot water out of the tap into the outside bath to get the temperature up, and therefore I sort of cooked them because the temperature got up to about 40 degrees. And so then I had to sort of add more cold water and so the first guys had temperature swings that were amazing. And I have one, I had one, and I'm assuming that it's still around. I had one survive out of that look, but they had a really rough start. Lots 2 and 3 this year. Between them, I ended up putting about 80 in shells into the transition tank. And out of that, I have 44 have now moved into the juvenile tank. And lot 4 this time. And again, please remember, it is winter here. These are totally out of season. So it's just been extra difficult. I actually lost count. I think I've put about 30 into the transition tank. Monster has been renamed Sexy Monster because it was just every time I looked in the tank, he was on top of somebody. And I was going, go away, go away. Particularly seeing, as I said, it's winter. My raising setup is actually in my laundry. And it's the coldest room in my house because I've got no insulation in the ceiling in there, and it's on the corner of it's 2 outside walls, and then the other wall is going into the actually this goes into the laundry, so the other wall is actually going into the garage again, which has no insulation in the ceiling. So it's been really hard to keep the temperature up in there, but I think I managed. But anyway, we're not talking about what was supposed to be the beam, but I don't really care. So yeah, I think I'm up. I think the current lot is number 7 in over 4 years. But now Monster's got some adult girls because he didn't have any girls before. Now he's got some adult girls. I think he's making up for lost time. There was a tiny weeny little male in there as well that I rehomed. And there were 3 little girls and 2 larger females. And he was, when I first put them all in there, Monster was giving the little girls, the little females, a hard time. And so I actually moved them and the little male out into the tank that I've now got the juveniles in, the juvenile tank. And it was, then he sort of seemed to go off the bigger girls, but they could flick him away and, you know, they could sort of look after themselves, whereas he was so much bigger than the smaller females. Anyway, about a month after I put the smaller ones back in the 4-foot tank is when I had the first lot of babies this year. So I couldn't be absolutely certain, and I didn't see who the female was. I still have yet to find out who has had eggs and deposited them and who, because I have not seen a crab carrying eggs yet, even now. And usually I just wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, there's Zoe in the pool. I've got to do something about it. And but this time I was prepared because I had seen Monster mating with a number of the females. So I was sort of prepared, and I had actually written on my calendar 28 days after I'd seen the behaviour, I wrote on my little calendar, possible babies today. And each time that I had written that down, I ended up with babies a couple of days either side. Haven't seen any more lately, but Two-Bit, which is one of the larger females, has been in and out of the saltwater pool 4 nights running. That tells me that she isn't gravid, because she wouldn't do that if she had eggs. Well, I'm assuming she wouldn't do it if she had eggs, unless it doesn't matter if they've got eggs that are only like 2 weeks old or something like that. Monster's 4, so I don't know that it's so early about starting breeding. He's 4 years old. But again, he may have been able to start earlier, but he just didn't have any females. I had 2 large males in the other tank, and both of those didn't survive their last molt with me, which is really sad, because I'd had Ginger for 7 years, and he was a lovely crab. And Ginger is Monster and Choco's father. You have 2 other 4-year-olds. No, I have, Jeannie, I've got 2 4-year-old males that are captive bred. I have Monster is, that was really interesting. When they were talking about the other day, one of the people were talking about large and what are jumbo crabs and whatever. And I did the conversion, and Monster tried on a shell about 4 days ago, which is 3 point, hang on, let me just get I'll want to be accurate. Where's my phone? Monster tried on a shell, which I then got out and measured. And I took photos so I could remember. And whatever the shell was, it was just under. Now it was that one. Oh, this will be in reverse. Anyway, it was an apple snail shell, and it was 3.63 centimeters opening, which apparently is just under, it converts to just under what people were saying about being jumbos, and that's 4 years old. Good. We're starting riskies. Yes, I do want to do that. Did people get what they wanted? But it doesn't really matter because I was talking about stuff that interested you anyway. So yeah. Yeah, they do grow big. Choco isn't that big though. Choco is probably only in about a 2 centimetre opening, and he's had exactly the same conditions, access to exactly the same food and all that sort of stuff. So if people want to stay, I'm happy to stay because I will watch the presentation tomorrow my time. I'll watch it in the replay. So if anyone wants to stay, just sing out and type in that you're going to stay, and I'll stay talking and answer your questions if you like. But if you all want to go, that's fine. I would